Hi, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise. Tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today, I'd like you to celebrate how movement can permeate and maybe even change every aspect of your life, physically and mentally. We're going to be working whole body today, starting low on the mat and ending high. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify when you need to, rest if and when you need to. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to begin today's practice in a supine position. Make your way down to the mat, bend your knees, ground your feet as if you were setting yourself up for a bridge line. We're going to start by finding a pelvic tilt, and we will use the pelvic tilt to build up towards a roll, a full roll up. So we are going to start with our back line relaxed to the mat in neutral, pelvis and spine in neutral. Take a big breath in. On an exhale, tilt your pelvis to 12, imprint your lower and mid back, hold that imprint, find the contraction, and hold for 5. Release back to neutral and repeat 4 times. Tilt, imprint, find the contraction, hold it. Give yourself at least 3 full recovery breaths with your spine and your pelvis in a totally neutral position. Then let's begin to add to that pelvic tilt. Begin in neutral, tilt and imprint and bleed just your tailbone and your bum off the mat so that it feels like you're hanging on your bottom rib. Hold that contraction and then release. Repeat 4 more times. So you're trying to keep as much of your back on the mat, only bum and tailbone off. Find your way back to neutral and give yourself a few recovery breaths. Before we add the next layer, know where your neutral tabletop position is. So neutral tabletop would be if you were to bring the knees up and have them stacking directly over your hips. We are going to pull the legs through that line. So you're going to start in neutral. You're going to find your tilt and your imprint. You're going to find your contraction. You're going to peel your tailbone and your lower back off the mat. You're going to pull the knees up off the mat through the 90 line and then float them back down. Rinse and repeat 4 more times. And relax your feet back down to the mat and articulate up into a bridge line. Disconnecting one line of the ribs at a time, taking your belly up to the sky, squeezing the glutes, keeping the parallel leg line, dropping your bum halfway to the mat, and then planking back up 10 times. Articulate back down and give yourself a full recovery breath or two. We're going to try to add a progression, starting to come into more of a rollover pattern by finding a tailbone lift and a pike of our legs up towards the sky as if we were coming into a shoulder stand. And we're going to start and end each movement with our feet grounded to the mat today. Begin in neutral, find your tilt and your imprint, start to peel your tailbone off, pike up, and then softly bring your feet back down. You're going to try to do that 5 times. Take recovery and heel toe your legs in, squeezing your knees and your feet together. You're going to bleed up into a narrow bridge line, articulating up through the spine, squeezing the glutes, and then playing with that halfway drop 10 times. Keeping that narrow squeeze going through the legs. Shoulders are heavy, arms are relaxed to the mat. Remember this narrow leg line. Put it in your memory banks as you reconnect to the mat and open up your legs back into parallel. We're going to come back into that tailbone lift with a pike, and now we're going to add a plow leg drop before we roll back down onto the spine. So we're starting with the feet grounded. We're going to bleed up into the tailbone lift and pike up. We're going to drop the legs towards the mat, and then we slowly going to roll back down. We're going to shoot for 5 repeats. From your current position on the mat, articulate up into a bridge line. 5 times you're going to drop the bum and pike back up. You're going to end in the bum squeeze, hold it for 10. And you're going to softly lead back down to the mat. We're coming back into that full rollover position, and we're going to try to start with our legs in parallel. We're going to tailbone, lift and pike. And then as we come down into the plow and we start to roll down, we're going to bring the legs together and we're going to try to end with the feet together down on the mat in a narrow line. All right, so we're starting in parallel. We're going to tilt and imprint. We're going to bleed up, plow, and then feet together as we roll down and come down narrow. Now we'll do the next roll over from the narrow line. And when we come down, we're going to open up the feet and we're going to come down in parallel. So we're alternating how we're landing with our feet every time. And you're shooting for roughly 5 repeats. Give yourself a recovery breath or 2. And then from here, we're going to roll over onto the side of the body. You're going to assume a low to the mat position. We're going to stack the body in one long line, and you can pick the bottom arm position that is most comfortable for you. Stack the body in one long line and try to have the legs, you can either have them actively braced or soft, but we're working in a parallel line. So we're going to lift both legs off the mat. We're going to hold there for 10. Look down towards your feet and try to have them the same distance apart as if you were holding a ball or soft ball between the two legs. We're going to lift and lower without allowing them to touch the mat. Then still the legs, keep the bottom leg hovering and lift and lower the top leg just a little bit higher than your hip, and then squeeze back down as if that imaginary ball was now resting on the inside of the bottom foot. Keep the legs in parallel, so all 10 toes looking in the same direction. Then still the top leg and start to play with the bottom leg, lifting and lowering, but not quite allowing that leg to touch the mat if you can manage it. Then relax the legs down and roll over onto your belly, setting yourself up for a cobra line. So we're going to try to still belly button down, and we're going to work belly button up. You're rolling over onto your belly. You're going to bend your elbows and place your palms alongside your bosom, and you're going to hug your elbows in towards your body line. Find a little marble underneath your nose, begin to roll it away, and peel up into that small chest lift with either 3, 2, or 1 rib still connected. Hold that chest lift. Start to fire up your back muscles. Think lower back bleeding towards your shoulder line. And once they're fired up, see if you can bring your palms off the mat and keep your arms gently squeezing into center and hold. Without losing the integrity of that chest lift, we're going to start to play with the arms. You're going to float your arms overhead like a hovercraft to touch index and thumb, and then bleed back to your start position. So the hands skimming over the floor and not touching. Back muscles working hard to keep the integrity of the height of the chest lift that you have chosen for yourself. Let's do one more, then we're going to roll over. Reconnect to the mat, to roll over onto the second side of your body. Stacking your body in that long line. We're going to keep the parallel leg line, and we're going to lift and lower the legs. And in the lift, hold it. Keep the bottom leg where it is and lift and lower the top leg. We're working in parallel. And you're pretending that there's that little ball resting on your bottom foot and you're squeezing into the ball with the inside of your top foot every time. Then change legs, anchor the top leg, squeeze up with the bottom leg and relax back down, but not all the way to the floor. Try to keep that hovering position So you're not quite allowing that bottom leg to kiss the mat. Then reground to the mat, roll onto your back, bend your knees, ground your feet, and come to your original position on the mat. We're going to start by placing both hands on our hip bones and checking that our pelvis is in a neutral position with both hip bones adjacent to one another and no tilt. We're going to begin to destabilize this position by playing with the legs. We're going to extend the left leg. You can keep your hands on your hips, or you can relax them at your side. But close your eyes and think of how level your hips are to start with. We're going to extend the right leg up to the sky with a soft reaching toe. And then you're going to imagine somebody just pulling on your big toe. You're going to try to lift from the hip, not the trunk. And you're going to give me a tiny lift and then a lower. Try to lift your right hip and find a light activation through your obliques, keeping as much of your back line on the mat as you can and lifting from the hip. So get a sense of what it feels like when your pelvis is in neutral and when you destabilize it by lifting higher on one side. All right. Now, keeping your pelvis in neutral, so both hip bones are alongside each other without a lift on the right side. You're going to begin to trace a big circle with your right leg on the ceiling. Make that circle nice and big and keep moving in the same direction. Now change sides, moving in the opposite direction. Find your way back down to the mat, extending the right leg. Let's bend left. Think of those neutral hips. We're going to extend the left leg up to the sky. And we're going to find a little lift through the hip, not the trunk. Neutralizing and destabilizing through the pelvis. Then neutralize your hips. You can place your hands on your hips or you can keep them at your side. You're going to trace that big lazy circle, trying to keep your hips in neutral the whole time. So we're not lifting the left hip. Then let's change and trace in the opposite direction. Reground. Roll onto your side, stacking your body on one long line and setting yourself up low to the mat. Look down towards your feet, and this time we're going to try to give ourselves a tiny turnout position. So you're going to think heels squeezing together, but the big toes are almost like two opposing magnets moving away from one another so that you have a very narrow V between the two legs, and we're going to try to keep that narrow V as we play with a little lift and a lower, not quite allowing our pinky toe on the bottom leg to touch the mat. Hold your next lift for 10. Keep the turnout position on both legs and start to play with the top leg. A small lift and a squeeze of the heels together. And in the lift on the top leg, and then drop your toes towards the floor and think of trying to bring the toe of your top leg towards the toes of the bottom leg, but not quite allowing it to touch. Keep the turnout position on the bottom leg. Now let's start to play with the top leg. One heel down, one toe down. One heel, one toe. Don't lose the turnout position on the bottom leg. Relax back down, roll onto your belly. We're going to try to keep a slight turnout position. So from your parallel line, just relax the heels in, make the heels heavy, and allow the toes to softly splay out. If this is too difficult for you to remember, you can keep a parallel leg line. We're going to build ourselves a locust line, relaxing on the belly, with the arms at your side, palms up. We're going to start in neutral. We're going to find that little marble, we're going to roll it away with our nose, and we're going to peel up into the same chest lift height that we played with in the previous round. Locking it in, you're going to add a small double leg lift so that your back is in a small little bow frame. If this is too much, drop your whole body line and skim your nose and your feet just off the mat. See if you can add a double arm lift, arms alongside your hips. Hold the locust line or begin to play with an inverted 100 by rapidly beating the arms up and down, inhaling for a count of 5, exhaling for a count of 5. So we're trying to keep the locust frame with a slight turnout position on the legs, and then we're adding a beating 100 pattern through the arms. So the only thing that's moving at this stage is the arms, and you're hinging from the shoulder, not the wrist. The last set of 2. Still the arms. Reconnect the back of your hands. Reconnect your feet. Reconnect your forehead. Roll onto one cheek. Give yourself a recovery breath. You're going to roll from here onto the second side of your body, stacking yourself up in one long line. And then looking towards your feet and setting up that narrow turnout position with the heels together and the 2 big toes opposing one another. We're going to keep that small V as we lift and lower the legs, not quite allowing our pinky toe to reach ground after the first lift. You're going to end in the turnout position with your bottom leg hovering off the mat so that you can maintain that turnout position. And we're going to start to lift and squeeze down with the top leg. So you're trying to touch or tap the two heels together every time. Bend in the lift and then turn the toes of the top leg down. You're going to squeeze down with the big toe of the top leg and not quite allow it to reach the toes of the bottom leg, which are still in the turnout position. Now start to play one heel, one toe, one heel, one toe. Then bleed your way down, roll onto your back. Bend your knees, ground your feet. Take a recovery breath or two. And then we're going to start our next exercise, trying to replicate that turnout position that we were playing with. You're going to extend the legs and you're going to think heels together, big toes opposing one another. We're going to hold a neutral spine for this one, but we are going to make the belly button nice and heavy and we're going to relax our arms alongside the body. We're going to work the legs at the same time, but independently of one another, by externally rotating through the hip joint. And you're going to start to bend the knees, taking them out to the side of the room, grazing the floor with your feet, and then bringing the knees in and extending to come back to our turnout position. You're going to do that maybe 5 times, finding the pattern, remembering to find the turnout position through your feet as you extend the legs. Now close your eyes and think of tracing the same pattern, but this time we're going to hover the legs off the mat, so they're not touching the mat. You're taking your knees out, back in, and then trying to find a slight turnout position as the legs extend. Stay here or add a small chest lift, pressing into your palms and looking towards your working legs. End with the knees squeezed together and relax your head down to the mat. We're going to come into a supine clamp, opening the knees and squeezing them shut. Stay here or press up onto your palms as you add a chest lift. Stay here or tuck both hands behind your head, making your head heavy in your hands while keeping that clamp going. You're going to end in the open position and you're going to relax down to the mat. Let's do, we can do palms down or up, it doesn't really matter. We're going to start with our back line connected to the mat. We're going to add a chest lift and we're going to reach through, but we're going to try to reach through palm up and then relax back down. Close the legs, then open to chest lift and reach. Close the legs as you reground. Open as you chest lift and reach. So remember what it feels like as you're reaching through, palm up, as if you were trying to tuck your hands underneath your feet as you reach. Put that feeling in your memory banks. We're going to end with our legs open and we're going to tuck our hands behind the thighs starting to find the beginning of a C or roll by rocking up and down. Stay here holding on to the back of your thighs, or change your position by tucking your hands under your feet and playing with that same roll. We're not tapping the feet today, we're just finding that rolling action on the mat. We're going to end in the seal seat, and then we're going to roll over onto one side, and we're going to set ourselves up for a clam line. You can come high to the mat, or you can bring it low to the mat. We are going to lift the top knee and then squeeze it back down, keeping both feet grounded. Then change the next one. As you open the top knee, lift both feet, make a diamond, and then collapse the diamond 10 times. End in the diamond and play with the top knee. Drop it and float it back up. Little window wiping action. Then close the legs, roll over into a 4-point needle position with your knees just inside of hip width distance apart. You can keep your feet on the mat. You can lift them off the mat. You could even cross at the ankle. We're coming into a double oil rigger. If you want to work triceps, you're going to start with your hands underneath your shoulders. You're going to squeeze your elbows in. You're going to give me a push-up, either small or face skimming just off the floor, and then back up. If you want to work more chest, you can open up the hands a little bit wider. You can allow your elbows to track wide as you come into that push-up. And you're going to give yourself 5 to 10 repeats, depending on how briskly you're moving and how strong you're feeling through the arms. Once you've done your repeats, you're going to press back into child. You can either keep the arms long and extended and actively press into your palms, taking the stretch all the way from the palms to your shoulder line, and then making bum heavy to heels. Or you can relax your arms, maybe stacking one on top of the other, or even draping them around the body to take a little rest. To a working low lunge line from here. And let's start by coming into a high kneel. Let's step the left leg out in front of us. No, actually, let's do right. My bad. All right, so right leg coming in front. We're going to try to line up knee over ankle. And then we're going to take a little lean forward, fingers to floor. Looking for that hamstring on the back leg. And then we're going to take a half seat back and we're going to start to play. You can either keep that back foot relaxed to the mat, or you can tuck it under for the first set and progressively try to get your bum closer to the heel every time you sit back. You can slide or walk your hands along the mat as you play. And our first position is with both hands framing the lead leg. Maybe end in that seat and pause. And then change the position. Bring your right hand to the inside of the right leg and then heel toe the foot out so that you're in more of a lizard position with the right hand underneath your shoulder and the right foot softly splayed out. Release the back foot and start to play with that lean forward and that seat back. But we're trying to keep the slight turnout position on the right leg. All right, let's see if we can take these movements and start to play. We're going to take the left hand a little bit wider, so fingertips maybe even coming off the mat, and we're going to use high spine of fingertips on the mat. We're going to tuck the toe of the back foot under. We're going to lift the right hand off the mat. We're going to drag and kick through. And we're going to come back to our hamstring seat, and we're going to start to play. Making sure that you take that left hand nice and wide so you've got enough space to play with the leg. Bringing the right hand off the mat as you do that little kick through. And then taking a seat on the mat, rolling onto your second side and setting yourself up for that clam work on the second side. You could have a high arm or you could assume a low to the mat position. Stack your legs and line up your heels on the same axis as your spine and begin to open and close the top knee. Then let's come into a diamond clam, opening and lifting feet at the same time. And in the diamond position, keep the feet floating as you drop and lift the top knee. Then find your way from here into a 4-point kneel. 5 or 10 push-ups with the feet either grounded or floating or crossed. Tricep, narrow, chest, wide. Play where you're comfortable, picking where you'd like to work today. And then from here, we're going to find our way into child pose. Maybe starting with the arms long and extended, pressing into the palms, stretching all the way through the shoulders, all the way through the line of the back, making your bum nice and heavy to your heels. And then maybe just relaxing the arms, stacking them, and giving yourself a little time out, or maybe draping the arms alongside the body. All right, we're going to peel up into our tall kneel, and we worked right leg on the previous round, so we're going to do a little lunge step with the left leg. We're going to lean forward, fingers to floor. We're going to tuck the toes under of the back leg, and we're going to take a half push back and start to extend the front leg, and we're going to creep the hands forwards and backwards as we play with it, almost seesawing like motion, creeping towards the front end of the mat and then trying to sit back, bum to heel, while extending the front leg and looking for a little hamstring stretch. You're going to end in that seat. Then we're going to change the sit-up frame, find our way to a lizard frame. So hands now on the inside of the lead leg. We're going to walk that lead leg out. We're going to look for more of a lizard line. We're going to relax the back foot and we're going to play with that same lean to the front and lean to the back, progressively trying to bring our bum closer and closer to the foot or the heel of the back leg. Keeping that slight turnout position so that we're feeling that delicious wrap around the inside and the outside and the back chain of the lead leg. Maybe ending in the seat and holding for a bit before we come to that little kick through position. So lean back into your lizard-like stance and take the right hand a little bit wider. We're going to tuck the toes of the back foot under. We're going to lift the left hand off the mat. We're going to kick through. And we're going to come back to our hamstring stretch. And we're going to give ourselves maybe 5 repeats or so. This time, we're going to find our way from our hamstring stretch into a deep squat. So you're going to splay out the left foot, you're going to splay out the right. You could come low to the mat, or you could come into a midway squat. Shift the weight side to side, and then heel toe the feet in till you're in a comfortable squat line for yourself, and then settle in. Preferably both feet anchored, or you could do heels off the mat. Maybe fingers on the floor, but actively using those elbows to press open the inner thighs. Then you're going to keep the knees soft and bendy as you start to raise the bum, and you're going to walk the feet in till you're in a small Pilates V with your feet grounded in that soft bend to your knees. Like a ragdoll, you're going to peel up, you're going to restack, you're going to realign, and you're going to straighten up the knees so that the legs are in a long line. We're going to start to fashion ourselves a working standing pattern. You're going to start with the feet fully grounded, give me one full roll down, nodding chin to chest, hollowing out your belly, rounding out your back. Then peeling back up. Once you're standing and stacked, lift your heels off the mat, keep them off the mat, and come into a butterfly haunch line. Keep your heels off the mat, float back up, reground your feet, roll it down. Roll it back up. Lift your heels off the mat, keep them off the mat, and find a butterfly haunch line. Stay in the butterfly haunch line or find your way into a crow by placing your hands on the mat, rocking knees to tricep, lifting the feet off the mat for a second before you bring the heels together but still floating, standing up tall to reground your feet. One grounded roll down, one grounded roll up, float your heels, butterfly haunch to hold, or crow, leaning into your triceps, bringing the feet off the mat. Back to your haunch line with the heels off the mat. Come to a tall balancing stand. Ground your feet, roll it down, roll it back up. Lift your heels, keep them floating. Butterfly haunch. Stay or add a crow. Butterfly haunch. To restack, ground your feet. One last roll down and up, keeping the feet fully grounded. Then fist the two hands together. Float your knuckles overhead, making a steeple-like frame. And start to sway like a palm tree. Hands moving in one direction, hips moving in the opposite direction. Sway for 5. Then end off center to one side and hold. Hips moving in the opposite direction to your arms. Then sway for 5. Finding the hold on the opposite side. Hold. Find your steeple position again and bring your hands down in active prayer in front of your heart to end off our playtime on the mat. Thank you so much for coming out and playing with me today. I do hope that you enjoyed today's practice. Till next time, keep it light.